Welcome back to the deep dive, where we like to, kind of get into the nitty-gritty of some of the stories that are fascinating to us in the world of tech and geopolitics. And today we're going to dive into a story that sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi thriller. Taiwan's decision to lock down its most advanced chip technology. They're keeping it all within their own borders.
Yeah, it's a pretty big move. It's a move that has sent ripples through the global tech industry. A lot of people are asking, what's the strategy? What's the logic behind this? It's a bold move.
It really is.
Yeah.
So let's kind of like rewind a little bit. We're talking about TSMC, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, a name that people may or may not know. But it's really a titan in the tech world. They are the world's leading manufacturer of advanced semiconductor chips. And these chips, just as like a real quick reminder, are the tiny brains that power practically everything. Our smartphones and laptops and even our cars these days, and all kinds of advanced AI systems.
Yeah, and we're not just talking about any chips here. We're talking about their groundbreaking 2-nanometer chips.
Wow.
Which, to put that into perspective, that's smaller than a strand of human DNA. So these chips are poised to just completely revolutionize computing power and efficiency. It's a huge leap.
Yeah, that's mind-blowing. Okay, so these 2-nanometer chips are set to be a game changer. And Taiwan has decided to keep all production of these chips within its own borders. Why?
Well, the Minister of Economic Affairs, J.W. Kunshu, has stated that it's all about safeguarding Taiwan's proprietary technology amidst, all the growing global tensions that we're experiencing these days. It's important to remember that we live in a world where technology is becoming increasingly intertwined with national security and economic dominance.
So essentially, Taiwan is protecting its crown jewels, these 2-nanometer chips. I mean, it's almost like they're holding the keys to the future of technology, and they're just not willing to share those keys, at least not yet. But how does this impact TSMC's plans? They've had these ambitious plans for expansion, especially their massive new facility in Arizona.
Right. Yeah, that's where things get really interesting. The Arizona facility was initially envisioned as this hub for producing these cutting-edge chips, and that potentially included these 2-nanometer chips. The goal was to be able to supply American companies and really give a boost to domestic chip production in the U.S.
Right. It was a really big win for the Biden administration's GES Act, which was designed to incentivize companies just like TSMC to increase chip production on U.S. soil.
Exactly. However, now with this new restriction in place, TSMC can only manufacture older, less advanced chips in Arizona. So it's potentially limiting the facility's role in the global semiconductor landscape. And, it kind of throws a wrench into the GES Act ambitions.
So TSMC can build this factory, but they can't make the most advanced chips there. What does that mean for the future of the Arizona facility? Is it just going to be relegated to making these less sophisticated chips?
Well, based on all the current information that's out there, it seems that way. It seems like TSMC might be limited to producing chips using older technologies, like 4-nanometer or maybe 3-nanometer outside of Taiwan.
Wow. This is a major shift.
Yeah.
Sounds like Taiwan is making a bold statement, but why would they restrict such a potentially lucrative global market for these groundbreaking 2-nanometer chips?
Yeah, that's a great question. To really understand that, we need to kind of dig a little deeper into the motives behind Taiwan's protect-at-home strategy and kind of look at the broader implications for their dominance in the semiconductor world.
Let's do that.
So, Taiwan's motives are multifaceted. This isn't simply about economic protectionism. It's really about safeguarding a strategic asset. In a world, where technological leadership is increasingly intertwined with geopolitical power.
So these chips, it's not just about profits. It's about power dynamics on a global scale.
Exactly. And Taiwan's decision reflects a growing trend that we're seeing worldwide, which is a move towards greater control over vital technologies.
Yeah.
You can kind of think of it as this global race for technological supremacy.
Right.
Where countries are becoming increasingly protective of their technological crown jewels.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And so in this, high stakes game, holding on to your most advanced technology, it's like holding all the cards.
Yeah.
But isn't Taiwan kind of risking its relationship with the U.S. here, especially given the GES Act and all the investments that have already been made in that Arizona facility?
Yeah, it's definitely a delicate balancing act. And Taiwan's move has, without a doubt, complicated the U.S.-Taiwan relationship when it comes to technology. The GES Act, with its goal of bolstering U.S. semiconductor manufacturing, is now facing a potential hurdle. The act was designed to attract foreign investment and expertise. And while TSMC's presence in Arizona is still significant, The restriction on 2-nanometer production raises questions about the long-term impact of what the act was hoping to achieve.
So the U.S. might need to kind of rethink their strategy.
Yeah.
Maybe explore ways to further incentivize advanced chip production within its borders, or even seeking, alternative solutions.
Exactly. And this situation really underscores the complexity of global tech supply chains and the delicate interplay between, economic interests and national security concerns. And it's not just the US that's affected by this. Taiwan's decision has the potential to reshape the entire global tech landscape.
How so?
Well, for one, it could trigger a domino effect.
Oh.
Other countries seeing Taiwan's, protective stance might be tempted to follow suit.
Yeah.
Further fragmenting the global technology ecosystem. So imagine a world where each country hoards its own advanced technologies and it leads to these regional tech silos.
Right.
And that would hinder collaboration, stifle innovation, and ultimately slow down global technological progress.
Wow. That sounds like a recipe for technological stagnation.
It's a real concern. But on the flip side, this move could also be a wake-up call for countries that have become overly reliant on a single source for these critical technologies.
Right.
It might spur them to invest more heavily in their own domestic semiconductor industries, fostering innovation and competition.
So Taiwan's decision could kind of inadvertently spark a wave of innovation as other countries try to catch up.
It's possible, yeah. And that brings us to another fascinating aspect of this story, which is how Taiwan's protect-at-home strategy actually strengthens their long-term dominance in the semiconductor arena.
I'm all ears.
So beyond simply safeguarding their 2-nanometer technology, Taiwan is strategically building an entire semiconductor ecosystem within its borders. They're attracting top-tier talent, fostering cutting-edge research, and they're incentivizing international partnerships. So it's not just about producing chips, it's about controlling that entire value chain, from the design and development to the manufacturing and distribution.
So they're creating this self-contained powerhouse of semiconductor expertise.
Precisely. And this ecosystem approach gives them a significant advantage in terms of innovation and resilience. It allows them to control costs, accelerate development cycles, and just maintain a technological edge.
That's a brilliant strategy. They're not just protecting a single technology, they're building this fortified ecosystem that's really difficult to replicate elsewhere.
It's a masterclass in strategic planning. They're essentially creating a semiconductor fortress, reducing their reliance on other countries, and just solidifying their position as a global tech leader.
This all makes Taiwan's decision to keep its 2-nanometer chips at home even more fascinating. It's not just about protectionism. It's about foresight, strategic positioning, and a long-term vision for dominance in the semiconductor world.
Absolutely. It's a calculated move that demonstrates the power of strategic thinking in an increasingly competitive global tech landscape. But what about TSMC, the company at the heart of all this? How are they navigating these shifting tides?
That's a great question. After all, they are a global player, with ambitions that extend far beyond Taiwan's borders.
Yeah, they really are.
TSMC's in this fascinating position. I mean, they're a Taiwanese company, but their success is built on being this global player.
Yeah.
They supply chips to companies all over the world. So how do they reconcile that global ambition with these new restrictions?
It's a tough spot for them to be in, for sure. It's this real tightrope walk for TSMC. On one hand, they've got to comply with their home government's regulations, right?
Right.
And they need to safeguard Taiwan's strategic interests. But then on the other hand, they also have to maintain their global customer base and keep pace with the ever-evolving demands of the tech industry. I mean, it's moving so fast these days.
It really is. So how are they adapting to this new reality?
Well, one strategy they seem to be employing is this kind of technological diversification.
Okay.
So while their most advanced 2-nanometer chips are exclusive to Taiwan, they can still produce a range of other chips using slightly older but still very powerful technologies, like, 3-nanometer and 4-nanometer chips at their facilities abroad.
So they're offering this kind of tiered approach, essentially catering to different market segments with, varying levels of technological sophistication.
Exactly. And it allows them to maintain a presence in these key markets like the US while still adhering to Taiwan's strategic objectives. It's a pretty clever way to balance those domestic pressures with their global aspirations. But it also raises questions about the future of chip manufacturing and, global tech dominance in general.
What do you mean?
Well, if this trend of countries protecting their advanced technologies continues, we could see a shift away from that highly globalized chip industry that we have today. Imagine a world where instead of having a handful of global giants like TSMC dominating the market, we have, multiple regional players who specialize in specific chip technologies.
So instead of having this, one global chip market, we might end up with several smaller, more localized markets.
Exactly. And this fragmentation could have really profound implications for, the pace of innovation, the cost of technology, even the balance of power in the tech world. It's a fascinating and rapidly evolving landscape, and Taiwan's move to protect its 2-nanometer technology is a key piece of this whole puzzle.
It absolutely is. And it's a reminder that technology is not just about, bits and bytes. It's about power, strategy, and the future of our interconnected world.
It really is. And for anyone who wants to really kind of delve deeper into this intricate world of semiconductors, I highly recommend checking out siliconanalyst.com. They offer these really in-depth analyses of, chip value chains, fab capacities, and pricing. Really everything you need to understand the forces that are shaping this really crucial industry.
It's an excellent resource for anyone wanting to stay ahead of the curve in this rapidly evolving field. And on that note, we'll wrap up this episode of The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us as we explored this fascinating world of Taiwan's strategic move to protect its 2-nanometer technology and the potential ramifications of this decision, globally. It's a story that's far from over, and we'll be keeping a close eye on how it all unfolds.